This is the Less Insurance Dependence podcast show with my good friend Gary Takas and myself, Narain Arulraja.
We appreciate your listenership, your time, and most of all, we appreciate your intention to reduce insurance dependence in your practice. Our goal is to provide information that will help you successfully reduce insurance dependence and convert your practice into a thriving and profitable dental practice that provides you with personal, professional, and financial satisfaction.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Less Insurance Dependence podcast, your trusted source for insights, strategies, and expert advice to elevate your dental practice and career. I'm Michael Walker, your co-host, and I'm excited to bring you another thought-provoking episode with one of the industry's most respected voices in dentistry, Dr. Brett Kessler. On this podcast, our mission is to equip dental professionals with the tools to take back control of their practices, whether through building a fee-for-service model, optimizing patient relationships, or shifting away from insurance-based limitations. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to share an exciting opportunity brought to you by Equa Marketing, the sponsor of this podcast. Equa is offering each of you a free marketing strategy meeting valued at over $900. When you book this meeting, Equa Marketing will provide expert recommendations to attract high-quality new patients to your practice, rank number one on Google within your local community, and help you grow new patient calls every month. What you'll be able to do is visit www.lessinsurancedependence, all one word, .com/marketing-strategy-meeting. Now that's a lot of words and letters in there. And wherever you picked up this podcast, there will be a hard link there for you to be able to click on to be able to go ahead and get your free marketing strategy meeting. And if you're looking for personalized help to create a thriving insurance and independent practice, you can also book a complimentary coaching strategy meeting with Gary Takas. And you can reach Gary at www.thrivingdentist.com/CSM. And if you don't know Gary, I encourage you to reach out to him. He has an incredible amount of wisdom about the dental practice and all the unique parameters of it. And just like our guest today, we'll be able to provide that as well. So now on to today's episode. I am certainly honored to welcome Dr. Brett Kessler, a respected leader in dentistry, speaker, and a passionate advocate for purpose-driven practice transformation. I love that term, Doctor. As a former president of the Colorado Dental Association and a highly experienced practice owner, Dr. Kessler has not only built a successful clinical career, but has also helped countless dentists gain clarity on what truly matters. Leading with intention, creating great culture, and breaking free from external constraints like insurance plans. I can also tell you that Dr. Kessler is the president of the American Dental Association. Congratulations on that, Doctor. And that's an honor, I'm sure, and a lot of work. And it's very much appreciated to be making that investment into your business community. But today, in today's episode, we're going to talk specifically about how practicing with purpose helps you build a more independent and sustainable practice, why culture and mindset are key to reducing insurance dependence, what holds dentists back from moving away from PPOs and how to overcome it, and actionable steps to create a fulfilling practice that aligns you with your values. Some great in-depth stuff. I know that Dr. Kessler is going to have some best practices for us, some great insight, and I know from talking to him a couple minutes beforehand, some wonderful inspiration. So Dr. Kessler, it is a privilege to have you here, and I would love if you would begin with your story. How has your leadership journey influenced your views on practice independence and long-term sustainability?
Oh, thanks, Mike. It is an absolute honor to be here. And I want to shout out to Gary Takas, a good friend, and he's a big part of my journey and a big part of my success as well. Yeah, to start out, I'm a general dentist. I was a practice owner from 2003 to 2018 in Denver, Colorado. I started my practice from scratch, and I started with very few, maybe one dental insurance plan, and that quickly evolved into 0 insurance plans. And we were truly a de novo fee-for-service startup, and it was very fulfilling. And the leadership part is really important because, first of all, the Latin translation of doctor is leader. Is teacher. And we have to be able to teach and lead our patients to choose their finest care. In order to do that, we have to be showing up as our best selves. And so, I had been an associate, and I was in a partnership that didn't go so well leading up to the time when I started my practice. But all those, all that experience of 8 years of practice led me to the vision of how I wanted to practice in my life, and I wanted to do it free of the encumbrances of the insurance, as a stand between the relationship of my patients and myself. And so I was very clear on the vision of what I wanted to do, and then and I guess through stupidity, resilience, or wisdom, I don't know what it was, but resilience was definitely part of it. I was able to do it. And as I mentioned, it was very, very fulfilling. So when I started it, I had consultants, I had coaches who guided me and kept me on task to my vision. I remember I wrote a 100-page business plan, and I had a financial guy help me with projections and stuff like that. And I went shopping it around to banks, and all they did was look at the spreadsheet. They didn't look at the other 95 pages, and it really pissed me off, to be honest with you. And when I went to my business coach about that, and he said, "No, Brett, that part, those 95 pages were for you." What do you mean? That was your vision of what you wanted to create. The bank doesn't care about that. They just want to know that you can, produce it. But that was the pathway. That was the way to do it. And that only comes through a serious amount of inner work to really define not only who I wanted to be, but how I wanted to thrive in the community that I'm serving.
I love the way you approach that with the, and I remember that in my first business plan too, thinking had all this stuff prepared and everything ready to go. And yeah, they don't care. I mean, I was a lender at one point, so I can still remember being told by a senior lender, he says, "Mike, you're thinking about this all wrong." I was thinking about proactively about how many loans I could help generate. They said, "You need to think that out of the gate, you're going to turn down 98% of these. So you need to figure out why you're going to say yes to 2%. I said, "Well, that's no fun." And if Brent and I were just talking about, that didn't last long because, I just don't get that. But I love how the vision, and I think that's something that I see a lot in a lot of medical professionals. I don't know if this makes sense, Dr. Kessler, but, I've seen this in different conversations. I do a lot of work in the medical space, from the veterinary side to the aesthetic side, dental side. And so I'm in different communities, but there's a common denominator that most medical professionals are accidental entrepreneurs.
Right.
If they took a business course, it was by mistake, or they just had to because they couldn't get what they wanted. And to an exception, there's people probably like yourself that had that, but and so this idea of vision, it's something I don't think that necessarily gets, you put that word out. I think I'd like to unpack that a little more, but I think of vision as being, the question I pose to it is, what are you passionate about? Like, really, not just what you thought you should do or what your dad did or your uncle or whatever that looks like. What are you passionate about? What are the underlying values that are non-negotiable for that? And what do you see as your unique selling position? And how did you see that when you say vision? Because I think some of the doctors and folks like I've never really thought of it that deeply. I've kind of just, my dad did it, my granddad did it, or I had an opportunity, or I bought this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'll throw that out to you, Dr. Kessler.
So I'm gonna back up to the first couple of years of my career. I was suffering really bad with a substance abuse disorder. I was a drug addict and alcoholic. Okay. And when I hit my bottom in my third year of practice, went to rehab. I found, a solution to that problem, and it involved mindfulness. Okay. And mindfulness training. I had to change my brain to stay on the sober path, but the same tools that I use to stay on the sober path also gave me inspiration to live my best life. Because when I was locked in my brain under the addiction mindset, I saw no future. Everything was very, very small, and when I broke free of that, I saw a world of unlimited possibilities, and it was my world to go get, but I had to do it intentionally. And so I was about 9 months sober, and I read the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And, habit 2, begin with the end in mind. And he coined it as, if you had died and many people came to your funeral, what would you want people to say about about you in the eulogy? And then go live it. And so that's what I did. And from there, I've been sober 27 years now. Every 5 years or so, I write a 5-year vision statement of what do I want to do in these next 5 years. So I'm very intentional about it. You can't see it, but right to my right, I have a vision board that is up that allows me to keep it front and center. And because, I don't want to forget what my purpose is. I don't want to forget what my why is. And I don't want to forget who I am and where I'm going. And so when it's front and center with me, every decision I make in life, am I moving? Does that decision move me closer to that vision, or does it move me further away from that vision? And so a lot of times, if it's moving me further away and I continually move away from that vision, maybe the vision is wrong and I can change it, and that's okay. But I tell you, living with intention, most of the things that I've written in those 25 years, or the 5 times I've done it, have come true. And I'll even say when I turned 50. That was 2018. That was the year I decided to ask myself midlife questions, not midlife crisis, but midlife questions. What do I want to do with the second half of my career? What do I want to do with the second half of my life? And so that was the year I decided to sell the practice. And my wife and I had been talking about it for a couple of years. She's an orthodontist, and we've been talking about selling it because it was hard. It was a lot of work, and it was getting burned out. And I was rising in the organized dentistry world and leadership world. So that was the year we decided to do that. That was the year, as I said, I turned 50. That was the year I was 20 years sober. That was the year I decided to do my very first Ironman, and I got to do the World Championships that year. And so it was a heck of a year, but it was a year to reinvent myself completely. But not really change it, but just take a little right turn and build my new life and the next chapter of my life on all the experiences I've had up till then. And so, and I can go back to the vision statement that I had. Never ever put I'm going to be ADA president on my vision statement. Okay, what I put is I'm going to maximally contribute to the profession that has given me so much. And then doors just started opening. And that's what happens when you put it out there like that. Doors start opening, and then you can decide if you want to walk through that door or not. But once you walk through that door, you shut that door and you keep going forward.
Thank you, Doctor. I hope, as listeners, I think, again, I told you there'd be an inspirational part and best practices part. I hear you saying vision is intentional, meaning it's not something I'm thinking of doing this. I'll make a little note of it and get to it when I have time. Vision is about being actually doing something and executing when you get off of this podcast. Vision is also dynamic. It's not a one and done. It's a flow. But I think the most important part, really, and the fun part because I actually am 31 years sober, Doctor, so I get where you're coming from. So the reality is that the third piece is vision is celebrating the wins and seeing where you've been. It's in the world of 12-step, it's called the 9th-step promises. And it's a reality. There's opportunity there but it's just about living your best life, not somebody else's.
Right. And then and the treatment that we've been through for this, it really forces us to be introspective on how can we show up as our best selves. And when I ended up in the rooms, that wasn't going to be the end, the most, the highest achievement I would ever do. It's the foundation of everything I do, but it was a diving board into life. And,
Beautiful.
and I wanted to seize every minute out of every day.
I love it.
That's how I live.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can't tell you how comfortable I'm being so out of control because I'm not letting other things define me.
Right.
I'm defined by relationships that are important to me. Let's go, but I knew this was going to happen, Doctor. And I'm just, so let's pull it back because we want to talk about less dependent on insurance. That's part of the focus we want to get here. But I've got the next question I've got to throw out here is what unique challenges do women in dentistry face when striving to lead practices that are less dependent on insurance? That really intrigues me as a question, and I'm intrigued to hear the answer. I have no idea.
Boy, I hope my wife isn't around. No, she's kidding. So I remember early on in our career, we were dental school classmates, and one of our mentors, asked her why she wanted to be an orthodontist, and I was going to be a general dentist. I had these great opportunities in front of me, and this mentor thought that he was, that by her pursuing her orthodontics would hinder my growth. And he basically said, well, you're just going to, raise kids and work part-time anyway. And she didn't like that very much, and nor did I. There's still that sexism and stigma, that women, aren't going to work as hard. They're not going to be as good. They're not going to get paid as much. And, I don't buy into that. Women have it, I think a little bit harder because just of the culture that we're in, and that's not fair. It's absolutely not fair. So, I see so many successful women in dentistry. I see them successful in practice. I see them successful as practitioners. I see them successful in leadership. In fact, I followed a very strong female as president of the American Dental Association, and Linda Edgar. Okay, and I see them breaking the glass ceilings and moving up as they should. We are who we are, and that's how we are. I don't care if you're male or female, if you're gender neutral or transgender. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what style of practice you are. If you're a dentist and you're contributing to the profession, I want to hang with you, and that's the bottom line.
Yes, it's as we know, no addiction doesn't have any preferences. Everybody's eligible.
Right.
The next question I have for you, Doctor, is how can developing leadership skills, both personally and professionally, we've kind of started touching on some of that, help female dentists take greater control over their practice models and their long-term goals?
Not sure why we're going down the female dentist thread, but I'll try and answer that as a male. Leadership is agnostic to sex as far as I'm concerned. And, when I started my practice, I dove into a self-directed leadership continuum. And, I started reading leadership books. I started, I had, like I said, hired coaches and consultants who helped me build my leadership skills. And it's a journey. It's never a destination. I'm always looking to grow my leadership in every way that I can. And it makes me more effective as a human being. It makes me more effective as a dentist, as a business owner, and as a leader.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I think trying to just kind of cover all the bases. We tend to get focused, two guys on a conversation, and I like to try and bring in a little bit of, I work with a lot of female dentists on these, and I hear so many interesting viewpoints. But I wanted to go back to a question here. As a longtime practice owner, obviously, and leader in organized dentistry, what mindset shifts do you believe are essential for dentists looking to reduce the reliance on insurance and take control of their practice model?
So that's a courageous step. I would say 95% of practicing dentists in North America are on are providers of some kind of insurance network. They're aligned with some kind of insurance. 100% of them dislike it. I'll say that right up front. But it does drive people to the dentist, and it is a part of who we are. Even though my practice was fee for service, most of my patients had some kind of benefits, and we would, and try and get them all the money they could out of their plan. And so if you decide to not be a participating dentist, I applaud you for a very courageous decision. It will involve, your whoever answers your phones, 40 to 50 times a day, having to answer that question. Every single patient that comes into your office, it will require that you have to answer that question, and you have to answer it in a very confident way. My way to answer that was, I'm not aligned with any insurance plan. My goal is to have a relationship with you one-on-one, because I view the doctor-patient relationship as a sacred cow. And I want to include you in every aspect of care and the decision-making in your care. And I don't want a third party to be in between telling you what's best for you when they've never seen you before. And that tended to attract a certain clientele to my practice, and it turned off a certain clientele from my practice. And, I live in Denver, and I would always say to my team to remind them, because it takes a lot of, teamwork, and you have to have an amazing team to be able to do this and thrive in it. And when you do, it's amazing. It was the best part of dentistry. But we, there are 3 million people in Denver, and we only need about 750 of them in our practice. We don't have to be the dentist to everybody. And we were okay when people chose not to use us because of insurance. It was, we knew what we could provide as, what we thought was the best possible options for our patients. And it wasn't for everybody, and that's okay. But another paradigm that was really difficult to see is that, in previous going up to that level before I decided to go non-par, I had busy schedules, 20, 30 patients in a day. And when I went to non-par, it was 5 or 6 patients a day. And some days there were 2 or 3 patients on that day. And, but I wasn't as busy, but I was about 3 times more productive. And, I was working smarter, not harder. And it was much more fulfilling because I got to lead my patients along the line so they can choose their best care. And it wasn't me telling them what to do, it was them, along for the ride with the decisions. And it was, and I still, I have I would give my patients my cell phone number, and I still get calls from my former patients, on a regular basis, asking advice on their care, because we truly had a relationship, human-based focus. LD Panky, who I'm a big fan of and follower of, Panky Dawson. Panky always said, I never had a tooth walk into my office. It was always attached to somebody. Treat that somebody, and you may get to treat their teeth and their oral condition. And I took that to heart. And as a result, I was a sought after dental professional in the Southwest part of the country. And it was very fulfilling, both for me and for my patients and for my team. My team loved it. They absolutely loved it.
Wow, I'm curious to go from that transition, the time, how long did it take for it to really take hold enough that the numbers made sense?
Well, I started it with only one plan. So I started with 0 patients. Okay. And within a year and a half, I was non-par. And it actually was driven by my office manager, because she knew my vision. And she's like, Brett, let's just do it. Just cut it and see what happens. And it pissed off some of our patients. It did. But the ones that stayed were truly appreciated what I could provide for them. And they wanted that. And, and I'm not saying it. So in the years since, I work at another office. I'm not currently in practice right now. But the last couple of years, I worked for a friend of mine that was a heavy insurance based practice, and it was a totally different clientele. There's nothing wrong with that. But it does drive people to the dentist, and we're in a culture that, where patients expect they can only get care if they have insurance. And so, to break that is really tough to do. But, and like I said, we weren't for everybody, but we were for the ones that truly wanted it and appreciated it. So it was an easy fix because my team drove it. I didn't have to. They knew what my vision was. I just wasn't ready. I wasn't courageous enough to pull it on my own. But that's the beauty of building the team. And that's, again, go back to leadership training. There's got to be a leader of the team, and that leader has to inspire a preferred future for that team to go after things to make the world a better place. And that's what we did.
Thank you, Doctor. And you mentioned vision there. I mean, I think that's the key, is that you had a vision and you knew what you were going after, and everybody else could line up with that vision and buy into it. And then everyone's pulling the same direction. And I think that's just such again, if you don't have the vision, if you're just trying to make a transactional shift, then you're going to have all kinds of pushback relationally. And I think that's what I'm hearing you say. But let's talk about purpose-driven leadership, because that's something you're passionate about. How can having a clear mission and values help dentists transition to a more independent fee-for-service model?
So, wow, that's a great question and tough to answer. It starts with me personally as the leader of the team, defining myself of what my purpose is. What is my vision for what I want to do? So I'm a dentist, but that's not who I am. It's what I do. And so my dentistry affords me the opportunity to live this great life. But I want to do the best dentistry I could be. So a big part of my life is dentistry. Absolutely. And so once I'm clear on who I am and what I stand for, then, and we talk about, back to Covey's 7 Habits, he talks about core values in the discussion of trying to figure out who you are and what you stand for. And core values are that. And and he recommends or suggests that your first and most important core value is courage, because you can have a core value of honesty, but if you're not courageous enough to act honestly, then it's not a core value. It's a platitude. And so become really clear on your core values. In my mission statement, tells me how do I want to show up in all the roles that I play in my life on a regular basis. And I'm not perfect by any means, but it helps me set the intention. So then, I'm pretty clear on who I am, what I stand for, where I want to go. Then I can express that to my team, and it also will attract a certain type of people to want to work with you, and it will attract a certain type of people that will want to do business with you, because there will be a values overlap, because they will see the values and being expressed in me and my actions. It gives them the freedom to express their values, which are similar in the same realm. And when I developed our mission statement, I did it. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but I led the discussion, and my team created this amazing mission statement for our practice and the amazing core values for the practice. They did it, and I knew what I wanted, and I kind of guided them along the way with what they wanted, because we were attracted with the values crossover. And then, patients also felt that same value, and not everyone has the same values. That's okay. Like I said, we're not for everybody, and everybody's not for us. But people do business with other businesses if there is a value crossover. And sometimes that value crossover is financial. Sometimes it's purpose. And in our case, it was both. And what I felt that going to another great book, Good to Great by Jim Collins, was a pivotal book for me as I was building the practice, because there were 1,000 dental offices in Denver. How do I stand out? How do I be, the one where we can create this niche? And what drives our economic engines? We went through all that. What could we be the best in the world at? And we went through all that. And what are we passionate about? We went through all that, and it came to be that our big, hairy, audacious goal is that we were going to focus on the relationships. And that was where we started. And it started from the patients that we currently had would go out and be missionaries for our practice. And they would refer other patients. And when that other patient was referred in, the first thing they did was look up our website. And was the website consistent with the testimonial from their friend or family member? And then if it was enough and they were ready to work or do dental work with us, they would make that first phone call to our office. That first phone call had to be consistent with the other two steps. And then if they made the appointment to come in, that very first experience face to face had to follow that same theme and that same value that they can feel. And so in every step, every day, we had to be able to show our values in all of our actions. And that's why I feel like it was not only successful, but it was fulfilling for not just me, but for my team and for the patients that chose us.
Yeah, you can feel it. It comes out of you.
Right.
You're what my company, we focus on developing what we call influential leaders. And influential leadership is defined by an influential leader gives somebody something they don't even know they need or want. Once they have it, they can't imagine live without it. But then they can't wait to give it away, which is you all day long. It's just beautiful. So thank you for being an influential leader.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I thank God every day for the mentors that saw things in me that I didn't see in myself, that pushed me along this line. Because I would, I'm a result of the village. Absolutely. So
I love that result of, I like that line. That's good. So kind of as we get close to wrapping up here, Doctor, for dentists who feel stuck in the insurance cycle, what are the first 2 or 3 strategic changes they could make today that will move them closer to a more fulfilling and financially sustainable practice?
I work with a lot of young dentists. I mentor a lot of young dentists, and we talk about that. They say, "What job should I take, Brett?" And I say, "Well, where do you want to be in 5 years? If your dentistry were your dental life were the best it could possibly be, what would that look like?" And I make them draw out a vision statement, basically. So draw a vision statement, draw it out and start there. So, but initial steps. Like I said, I had a very relationship-based practice, and when my first appointment was about an hour and a half long, and sometimes we never even made it into the clinical side of the practice. And it was a discovery session that I learned from the Pankey Institute and from the Dawson Academy to really get to know the patients. And so in a high volume practice, that's really hard to do because you're just constantly churning and burning. And so I would say the first thing that I would do to start that transition is your next hygiene check. Sit your patient up, look them eye to eye, and introduce yourself to them if it's your first time meeting. If it's not, just say, "Hey, I wanted to talk to you really quick. I'm trying to slow things down in this practice. I could be more effective in getting what you want. But what would you say your goals are for your teeth or for your oral health? What do you want to accomplish?" And sometimes they'll go off on this diatribe of, that I want my teeth whiter, or I want this tooth fixed, or I just want a cleaning, and that's okay. But you start those conversations, it starts a culture shift, not only with you and your patients, but your team then starts to see, hey, this dentist really cares about the patient, not just the teeth. And to have a truly fee-for-service practice, there has to be a value proposition that's palpable to the patient, and for them to consciously take money out of their pocket and give it to you without any insurance paying for it. So you have to provide value, and that's the first step, to provide value. Then if they start yapping and talking away, which they normally will, some will, you say, "Hey, Mrs. Jones, this is a great conversation. I have another patient I have to see. Can we make another appointment? Because I see some things going on in your mouth. I want to take a deeper look at it. I just don't have time to do it right now. Can I make an appointment with you, or we can continue this conversation?" And then you can slowly start to transition the practice to that relationship-based, whole health focused style of practice. And you'll see that you'll slow down. You'll do a lot more work on fewer patients, and everyone will be happier as a result. But that key question, what are your goals for your teeth? That's a key one.
Yeah. And so vision statement, supporting goals or supporting values, add value, personal relational value to the conversation, and then ask for the next appointment. It's kind of like in sales. I was always told I could sell anything, and then I went and a friend had a car dealership, and I went to sell cars for him for a while just because he needed something to fill in. Did not have fun doing that, but I realized I never had learned how to ask for the sale. And I did not, and so that's really asking for the appointment. And I hear this a lot in the aesthetics practices. They talk about lifestyle wellness. And I think that's what it's lifestyle is not, it's holistic in the standpoint, it's transactional what we do and how we do it, but it's relational about who we are and why we matter. And I'm hearing that as the bridge that you're talking about. So as one last thought, just for, as we kind of wrap up, is there anything you'd like to leave with in terms of becoming a more independent fee-for-service model for someone looking at that? What would be a word of inspiration you'd have for them as they kick this off? Remember, we talked about intentional with doctors, so I hope you're capturing something today that you can say, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to start with this. This is going to be my next right step. But inspirational thought for our listeners, Dr. Kessler?
You don't have to do it alone. That's if one thing you don't have to do this alone. Invest in yourself by getting a coach, getting a consultant, find a successful dentist in your area or another area around the country. Call that person up and ask them, how did you do it? What were the challenges you faced? What were the fears that you faced as you went this way? How did you overcome those fears? Can you help me? People who are successful, they want to pay it forward. They want to mentor people because they were mentored. I promise you, no one got there on their own. And there are so many people that want to see their colleagues succeed. And when you give it away, and so I get asked to mentor a ton of people all the time, and I usually say yes if I have the time. But I grow as a mentor, I grow as a person when I get to do it too. So you're not bothering that person who's ready to share with you. It's actually it's very satisfying for them. So don't do it alone. We're all there to help. So
that's a great, thank you, Dr. Kessler. And I think we will land it right there. And I think, once you find when you receive that mentorship, that coaching, that support, it's amazing how it just inculcates in you in a way that you can't wait to give it away. That's what we found as our influential leadership coach model. That was the key, is that giving it away is more fun than actually getting it.
Yeah. Think about it. If everyone chooses your best work, think about their lives and how it will improve. And you're changing the lives of the thousands of people in your practice over the course of your career, because you're giving them the best, and you're giving them the best you have to offer. And you can only do that if you find that path, and you don't have to do it alone.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Kessler. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your thoughtful insights on leading with purpose and transforming a dental practice beyond insurance. It's possible. You've proven it. It can be done. There's some hard work, but there's some, using your word, being intentional with some steps and getting started. But most importantly, as the doctor said at the end, not doing it alone. This is not a Lone Ranger activity. You need a team, and you need to surround you with people that get what you're passionate about as well. Clearly, your experience and your passion for helping dentists align their careers with their values has been super valuable for our listeners, and we're just so grateful for your time. I hope today's episode has inspired all of you listening to think more intentionally, using Dr. Kessler's word, about your practice, your leadership, and the steps you can take to gain more control over your business. Here are 2 great ways to take action today. First, if you're ready to grow your practice by attracting better fit, high-quality patients, you can go ahead and schedule your complimentary marketing strategy meeting with Echo Marketing. Their experts will show you how to reduce reliance on PPOs with strong SEO strategies. If those acronyms are new, just the SEO is just called search engine optimization. It's the mechanism in behind the scene. Google makes like 6,000 changes a year to their search engine, and you need something that constantly is moving with them. So you can go ahead and visit lessinsurancedependence.com/marketing-strategy-meeting. And again, as I said before, where you picked up this podcast, you'll be able to, the hard link will be there as well. Second, if you're looking for coaching on how to reduce insurance dependence, boost profitability, and lead a practice that aligns with your vision, again, I mentioned it earlier, but you can go ahead and book a complimentary coaching strategy meeting with Gary Takix at thrivingdentist.com/CSM. So one of those is for marketing and all the stuff in the front of the house. I think if they're up to like 48% of the activity that happens on our website happens after hours. So it's such a big deal now. It's becoming bigger and bigger. And on the business side, the operations side, on the practice side, Gary is a superpower when it comes to helping you sort through some of the complexity of the business. Both of these resources are completely complimentary. There's no hooks or tricks here, and created to help you take the next step toward building a thriving, independent practice that you deserve. If you found value in today's episode, please share this podcast with a colleague or a friend who could benefit from taking back control of their practice. The more we share, the more dentists we can help move forward beyond insurance. Thanks again for spending your time with us today. We take great value in your time and the privilege of it. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of the Less Insurance Dependent podcast. And on behalf of Dr. Kessler, and until then, keep moving forward toward a thriving, independent practice. Thanks all. We'll see you next time.